For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Binge-watching, braces, harassment, surprise birthdays, and pet death. Pet deaths. That's what we're talking about on the show today. Lots of interesting discussion topics, and again, it's 30 minutes of rants and raves. Not really rants, but just more opinion and discussion, debate, conversation that I'd love to hear from you about. My email address, again, is live@jbonair.com. If you don't have that already, mark that down, live@jbonair.com, because, again, what I love about this show is whether you agree with me, disagree with me, find me entertaining, find me obnoxious, I still want to hear from you. Because, again, I'm one of those few people who, maybe not one of the few people, but if you have a different opinion, then I want to hear it, and I want to hear why, and I'm not going to shut you down just because I believe in something different. And you're hearing that a lot now on shows like The View and others where, you know, there's... people can't have civil conversation or debate or discussion or disagreement anymore. It's my opinion, I'm right, you're wrong, shut up, you're an idiot, and, you know, and so... I love that, you know, because several weeks ago, I had written a column. I had commented about, you know, an idiot mom, I called her. And I'm not used to name calling, or I'm not one to name call typically, but this was a story I think we talked about on the show a week or two ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, about an Amber Alert. And the mom left the kid in an unlocked car that was running, and somebody stole the car, and the kid was gone. And so I ripped into the mom, and here's why. Because I feel that you did something to endanger your child, and then you're wanting sympathy, and you're most likely not going to get in trouble from the cops because it's poor mom, you know, something bad happened to me. And so, and I'll be the first to admit that I don't really care for kids, but at the same time, that's a stupid move, mom. And, you know, people were giving me, people just tore into me. And one guy, you know, called me a lowlife, and your parents obviously did a bad job raising you, and karma's going to get you, and you should sleep with one eye open, and all these things. And I thought, that's fine. And what I didn't mind the tweets where people disagreed with me, and they, you know, explained themselves as to why they disagreed with me. I can lay out my opinion, and for emphasis, and again, I'm a newspaper columnist, so you do write in a way to poke at people and to stir the pot. That's what you do. Look at any commentator on Fox News or the panels they have on CNN, right? You've always got that one or two people who are there to be disagreed with and say something radical and ridiculous, right? So in that moment, I figured, you know what, this is my chance to cause, you know, be a shit disturber a little bit. And so I wrote that opinion column. And so, yes, I realized that I had called the mom an idiot in that. But it's interesting, though, because if that mom reached out and wanted to debate me and say why I'm wrong and why I should have sympathy for her, I'm gonna listen to her, right? That's just what you do. But instead to, like, shut down and say... And, you know, people are saying, well, you're not a parent, so you wouldn't understand, blah, blah. It's like, but I wouldn't leave my house unlocked with... you know, $200,000, $300,000 worth of stuff in it. You know, like I just wouldn't do that. And you'd think, and, you know, not that it matters, but her daughter has special needs as well. Like, you'd think that she would be taking extra care of a daughter who's, I think, 6 or 8 years old. Like, you know, that, to me, that's just really stupid. And so I appreciate the people who agree with me, obviously, as most people would. But again, it just struck me as odd, the people that would just, you know, karma's going to get you, whatever. It's like, but maybe karma's the one getting her because she's the one who, you know, made the stupid move. Now, the happy ending to that story is that the daughter was found unharmed, and you know, everybody, that's a big sigh of relief, right? I'm not completely heartless. I agree that it was great that nothing happened to the girl, but anyway, there's just this civil discourse now that people, you know, if you don't agree with the person, they're automatically wrong, and you've just got to beat your opinion into them, basically, is kind of what happens nowadays, and it's just kind of sad. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk Some sort of heavy topics today. Nothing, nothing too bad. But as you know, I have braces. Actually, the story's about how it's changed the way I speak. We're going to hear about that coming up in the next segment. So we're going to take a break. More on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. And again, thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. About 6-7 months ago, I told you all that I got braces, right? That was my one insecurity, was having crooked teeth. And so, every 2 months you have to go and get an adjustment, and they put new wires in your mouth, and your teeth start to move in different directions. And so my adjustment was yesterday, and I have elastics in my mouth, as most people will end up needing them throughout the process. And my big concern when I got braces was that I wasn't going to be able to do radio, that my speaking, I wouldn't be able to talk, basically. And so there was a bit, I was starting to kind of get a kind of a sound. I just, I'm doing it with your teeth sort of on your lip. And I quickly noticed that. Obviously, when you talk for a living, and any sort of a change in your voice, you notice it, much like a singer would as well. And so I was kind of preparing for the worst. We had pre-taped a bunch of radio shows so that in the event I could not speak for 2 weeks. That's how much I freaked out, really. And then, like I said, I did notice it a bit. It just took a little bit of repositioning of my lips to sort of figure out how to speak so that I could avoid that sound, because it made me self-conscious. So not only did my crooked teeth make me feel self-conscious, now the sound that I'm hearing in my head when I talk is making me feel uncomfortable, right? That people are going to think that I've got a lisp or a speech impediment or something. And so yesterday when I had my adjustment, I got the new wires put in, and then the elastics, now we're doing it in a different position. So we've kind of, we've moved them back and forward. I've got 3 different elastics in my mouth. And it makes me feel like one of those rope courses at the gym where you have to kind of go through an obstacle course. And that's it's zigzagged. It's crisscrossed in my mouth. And so anyway, I really don't have much pain unless I've got to chew down on something. So, how many times a day do you do that? But there's times when I just I start to talk, and I almost want to say that I've got a lazy tongue, or I don't know what the term is. Lazy brain, obviously, today. But I just kind of laugh. And so just before we were about to do this segment, I was having a sip of water, and then all of a sudden, as I'm talking, the saliva comes, spewing out of my mouth as I'm talking to someone. And then I was like, was that just me, or was that braces related, braces adjacent? And so anyway, if you want to check out the progress, by the way, it's smilediary.ca. Our good friends at Kildonan Orthodontics are helping me get my perfect smile that I've always wanted for 20-some years now. Smilediary.ca, and my thanks to Dr. Nick there and his entire staff. He's really got a great operation there. So thanks so much, Dr. Nick. And we'll have updates on that website as the year and a half continues on. I've got a little bit more time with my braces. So, and I'd also love to know your story, because here's the deal. I had a press trip that I went on in July, and I had just got the elastics in it around that time, about a week earlier. And I was so concerned because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to excuse myself from dinner when I go out. I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, take out elastics, and then when I'm done eating, go back and put them in again. And so that actually made me sort of uncomfortable. I wasn't sure, I just have to go to the bathroom. Or do I sit at the table and just stick my finger in my mouth and start unhooking things? And very quickly I realized that there's almost this brotherhood of people who've previously had braces. Obviously I was with adults. I was talking with, fellow media types and some other people. And it's interesting how people are like, oh yeah, I had braces. Oh yeah, I get it. And so suddenly you're not like a black sheep anymore. And again, there's nothing wrong with having braces. I don't know why I sort of kind of felt like, uh-oh, this is a bad thing. It just takes me back to childhood when I did not want braces. My brother had them, and it made me think of the pain that he was in and the teasing that he got. And so suddenly now you're bonding with these people that, I had just met them like 2 days earlier. And suddenly, like, here we are going, oh, yeah, I had them at this age. And, oh, yeah, I had this. Oh, did you have to have da-da-da-da? And now it's a conversation topic at dinner, and I just thought this is really funny. I did not think that I would be randomly sitting around with a group of strangers talking about having braces, and so it really made me feel comfortable. And yeah, it's like almost I said brotherhood. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's just this camaraderie. Now there's a bond that you suddenly have with these people, and it was really cool. Anyway, I'd love to know your story if you've had braces or if you have them now as an adult, because previously it was kind of like, well, it's a kid thing. You don't get them that later in life, but you do. Right? You do. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. Again, we're online at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. I thank you so much for tuning in today. The Me Too movement. I want to comment on things in general. And what I like doing is I have my opinions, but I also like just posing questions to listeners. I like to kind of put out different thoughts and ideas and see what, if you agree, disagree, what your stance is on it. That's why I've been a newspaper columnist for over 13 years now, because, it's one thing. And sometimes I'll even maybe pose an opinion that isn't necessarily mine, just to see how people respond. And maybe sometimes it's to be a shit disturber. Sometimes you gotta, stir the pot and poke the bear a little bit. But this whole Me Too thing. Now, we've seen it with Les Moonves at CBS, and actually I think every TV network now has had somebody, right? You've had Matt Lauer, you've had Charlie Rose, you've had, it's kind of run the gamut, really. And so these guys are saying that, first of all, they deny the claims a lot of times, right? It never happened. I'm being misrepresented. People are trying to destroy my character. And there's more and more victims that are coming out. Now, here's the deal. I think that anybody who's been victimized, whether it's sexual harassment, rape, whatever, any victim of something like that, either, should be believed, should be made to feel comfortable, like that there's nothing wrong with them, that they did nothing wrong, and they need, sympathy, compassion, all that stuff, okay? I'm putting that out there before you start thrashing me with your emails. I'm not in any way defending what these guys are alleged to have done, right? That's always the word. You've always got to say allegedly. I'm not defending the guys. I'm not sticking up for them. What I'm wondering, though, is if, again, I'm just putting it out here, what if these things did happen 20, 30 years ago? You make your mistakes when you're younger, you're dumb, you're stupid, your hormones are raging, you got a boner, you want to show it off, whatever it is, right? We've heard lots of stories about these guys. And again, I'm not trying to make light of the situation. But what I'm saying is, should there be a statute of limitations, as there is in the law? But we're seeing these guys lose their jobs, their careers are ended, things are done, they're pariahs now, they can't, most likely won't find work, should there be one of these moments where it's like, you know what, it happened 10 years ago, I should be in the clear from losing my job? Again, I'm not justifying what they've done, I'm not sticking up for them, I'm not saying maybe they haven't learned their lesson, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, it really is coming back to haunt you. And I've written a few newspaper columns about this a year or so ago. And I don't know that it's fair, right? Because you know what? Here's the deal. When I was growing up, and when you first learn, a racist word or something like that, and you're teasing the kids in school, and you say something, is it fair that now somebody comes back, and, I'm in the public eye, I'm in the newspaper, I'm on the radio, I've got books out, that would be like somebody now coming from my elementary school or my junior high or high school, and I'm not touching even the N-word, I'm just saying some sort of a racist comment about something. I'm Ukrainian, and maybe I made fun of a Jewish kid in school. Again, these are just for instances. And so, maybe I made some jokes, and now maybe somebody just feels like, hey, that hurt me this many years later. Again, I get that rape is a completely different animal than making a comment to somebody. I get it. I'm not saying that they're similar. But what I mean is it right to have something like that maybe I did it as a one-time thing, I made a stupid mistake, I'm grown now, I'm mature, I recognize what I did was wrong. Should that prevent me from getting a job or keeping a job now? All this time later, I'm 36 years old, right? Maybe you do have these things in your closet, right? These skeletons from back in the day, and maybe in some cases you've even forgot. There's probably comments that I made to people in junior high that I don't remember. And here's the deal. I remember back in the day that teasing was a little bit different. It wasn't considered bullying. You didn't have, kids fearing for their life and kill. Well, the odd time there was a suicide, but it certainly wasn't as prevalent as it is today. And what I mean is that I just think that you shouldn't have to lose everything for something that maybe you did 20 years ago. Okay. Now, obviously, if you raped somebody, most likely you're going to remember that happened, right? Again, I'm not conflating. I'm not mixing the two up. But what I'm saying is, if I called somebody fat when they were younger, right? Maybe it was the kid, the guy in the back of the class who was, self-conscious, didn't want to participate in gym class, and he was fat, and he ate, bad food and made unhealthy choices, and I made comments or teased him. Is that something that should catch up with me all these years later, that I'm suddenly fat-shaming people? Or again, like I said, maybe I made a comment to, Jewish or well, let's say Hispanic or some whatever. I made an inappropriate comment, right? Is that something that now I should be labeled racist this many years later? I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts on this. So what I'm saying is there a statute of limitations, not by the law, but what I'm just saying by, like, an employer, or obviously, you won't get that in the public forum. You won't get the mainstream public agreeing with you, saying, okay, it happened 10 years ago, it's okay. Because as we're seeing, Les Moonves, a lot of these, claims are from 20, 30 years ago, and ditto on Charlie Rose and whoever, Matt Lauer as well. But I'd like to know your thoughts. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com. Again, I'm not downplaying what these guys either, or had allegedly have done. I'm not saying, but what I mean is, it's one thing to come back to haunt you and lose your career and your life, basically, 20, 30 years later. Maybe would people would they take it easier on these guys if the guys admitted and said, you know what, I screwed up? Was Louis C.K. kind of did something like that, right? Is that more forgivable if you own up to it and say, yeah, that was me and I did it, and I haven't, because I've been in a monogamous relationship and married for the past 20 years? Like, does it matter the backstory? Is there a time period? Is there a time frame when it's kind of fair game? Yeah, if it happened last month, okay, you're a dick. But, if it was something from back in the day, and again, keeping in mind that a lot of corporate cultures were that men were able to get away with things. Again, not saying that's right or wrong. We know it's wrong, obviously. But what I mean is, it's kind of one of those, well, everybody else is doing it. So, when you're singling out one guy, two guys, three guys, and I think it was Norm Macdonald, wasn't it, who said the other day, because he was, a week or two ago now, that he was canceled from The Tonight Show because he made comments about the Me Too movement and said, it was 100 women, I don't remember the exact quote, I'm going to screw it up. 100 women can't be liars, one woman can't be a liar. And so I think I understand what his point was that, is enough, because nothing is proven, but suddenly we're jumping on these people and saying they're predators and they're creeps and they're dirty old men and whatever it is. So again, I'm not sticking up for Norm, I'm not sticking up for what these guys might or might not have done, but what I mean is, should there be a time period, like a buffer period, where it's like, okay, that happened in 1975. Like, give me a break kind of a deal. Does it matter the time when it allegedly happened? Does it matter like how that person has changed, how the alleged predator has changed? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not taking a position on anything. I'm not sticking up for the men, not sticking up for Norm Macdonald, not saying the victims did something wrong. I'm not saying anything like that at all. I just put the thought and the idea out there to see what maybe it'll percolate in your mind and see if it opens your eyes, or maybe it shuts your eyes, it makes you turn away, it makes you turn off, it makes you say that I'm this or that. I love hearing discussion. That's why I host this show. So again, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble, and again, thanks for tuning in at the scribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. There's this term, binge-watching. I'm not coining the phrase, you've probably heard it yourself, and I get what it means. It means watching a bunch of episodes of a show all in one sitting, right? Okay, so is there a number? Like, if I watch 2 episodes of a show, that's not really binge-watching, right? That's just, okay, it was a double header, let's say. But what do we consider binge watch? Is it an entire season? Like, is there a number of episodes of a show that you would consider binge watching? And here's why I ask. Because when Big Brother was just playing out on CBS, I didn't watch it throughout the summer. I really, quite honestly, I had no desire to spend 3 hours every week sitting inside when it was nice out and I could be getting my tan on or my drink on a patio. And so I wasn't watching Big Brother as it started at the end of June. And I DVR'd them, I recorded them, and in one weekend, when it was, kind of rainy and gross outside, I had to get caught up, because we have the winner, the runner-up, and the third-place person, usually on our radio show, the day after they get out of the Big Brother house. And it's not a show that you can just sort of watch one episode here and there, because this is a 99-day storyline, right? It's playing out throughout the summer and wraps up at the end of September. So when it comes to gameplay and different moves and things like that people make, you really do need to be up to speed on things. I've never watched those live feeds. I have a life. I don't care to do something like that. What my point is that I needed to catch up on 31 episodes of Big Brother, and I did that in one sitting in a weekend. And it's hard nowadays when you have, your phone distraction, and I've got dogs and, phone calls or texts or social media, whatever it is. It's very hard sometimes even to focus for 1 hour when there's a television show on, right? And so I kind of had to, totally leave the phone in another room, no email, not doing anything. And it was a rainy weekend as well. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to order pizza. I'm going to get into a zone. I'm just going to vibe. I'm just going to, hang out here and watch Big Brother. And so to binge watch 31 hours of the show, or 32 hours I think it was, in one weekend, I didn't know how people could do that all in one sitting. And I'm wondering did I just set a world record for doing that maybe? Now, I didn't watch it 32 hours straight. I did it over the course of 2 days. But that's a hell of a lot of television to be watching. And so, but I did get caught up on it that weekend. And it was, wow, you almost feel like you haven't blinked when you're in kind of that marathon. No, I don't know how many hours of television could you actually, and I mean physically, sit and not move. Park yourself on the couch. How many hours of television can you watch straight through without, getting up? Maybe you got a bathroom break or something in there. How many hours? How many hours can you watch? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Would love to hear your story, binge watching, and what shows do you like binge watching? Because, again, I don't mind a good, Golden Girls marathon. See, I'm old school. I still call it a marathon. Or Married with Children, or a Will and Grace marathon. Those are kind of my shows. Those are my go-to shows. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
We're back here on the Scribble, and my opening rant about opinions, actually my opening rant about rants, ran a little bit too long, and so I've only got about 5 minutes to try and cram 2 stories into this. One of my friends she put her cat down and to sleep. She killed the cat, right? And not put her down, like insulted the cat. And it was a tragic time, and I'm a pet owner as well, so I can only imagine how I'm going to feel when the time comes. When I was growing up, I was about 20 years old when we had our family dog put to sleep, and so I remember being devastated. It was really a hard time. At the same time, and I'm not making a joke, I was heavily medicated on anxiety and depression medication, so that sort of cushioned the blow a little bit. But anyway, so we were talking the other day, and it was awkward because she had texted me and said, oh, well, I knew the cat was sick, by the way. She texted me and said that I had the cat put down. Like, how do you respond to something like that, right? Do you just sort of not reply and you just call, or do you just talk, when you see them the next day or whatever it is, have a discussion there? I didn't quite know how to respond. That's my first concern. Like, do you just reply, sorry to hear, or, oh, that's too bad? Like, to me, that feels just as impersonal as just not acknowledging. I would much rather talk and have a conversation, but then you don't know, like, are they devastated? Do they want you to talk to them? So tell me how you would handle that. What would you do if this was your friend? Would you just text and say, I'm sorry? Would you call them right away and want to talk about it because maybe it's still too soon, that they don't really want to talk? They at least just wanted to let you know. Do you, if they're a work colleague, maybe you're going to see them tomorrow anyway. What would you do? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And, again, I don't know that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. It depends on your relationship with the person, right? I kind of flipped it around and said, well, if I was going through a crisis, what would she do? Would she, come and see me? Would she, what would she do? And so I think it depends on the closeness of the relationship that you have with the person. Now, secondly, she was telling me the next day, because I did see her the next day, that she's going to get a tattoo of the cat on her. And I thought that to be strange. I wasn't sure how to take that. She's basically going to get a tattoo of a cat on her shoulder. Is that something that you would do? Is that something that you would, memorialize your pet on your body? I've never heard of somebody doing that before. I've heard of, a mom's name and things like that, right? Or a child's name or a but I've never heard of somebody getting a cat tattooed on them, a picture of their cat tattooed on their body. What do you think about that? Again, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And now, the other week on the show, we had played a clip for you, and I surprised my aunt on her 70th birthday. And that was, I'm trying to think now, that was probably about 3 weeks ago, maybe. And it was her 70th birthday, and I decided to do a bit of a prank. I got a whole bunch of our family members in on the joke. And let me find out when that was. That was might have been episode 189. So if you're on iTunes or SoundCloud right now, look that one up. But anyway, so that was the joke. Now, what happened was a couple of days later, her family, so my cousins and some of my cousins have baby kids, so my aunt and then my cousins and all the immediate family went for dinner. Well, one of my cousins tipped me off about it, and I said, I've got to do another surprise. They were going to a barbecue Western sort of a restaurant, and so what I had done was I had got dressed up in a cowboy hat and a vest and boots and everything. I went and got some flowers, and I surprised them at the restaurant. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to have, this really funny viral moment. I'm going to show up at this restaurant dressed like an idiot and, have this flowers and embarrass her, and I'm thinking, okay, and then people are going to, take out their phones and record and be like, oh my god, what's going on? What's this guy doing? And I thought, this is my moment. This is gonna be good. And I wanted to tell one of my cousins, okay, I'll text her something when I'm there, and then have the cameras rolling and going. Well, sure enough, I get there. There are 2 tables at the restaurant. The 9 of my family members, and then a table of 2 old people in the corner. And I was like, wow. There was no. I mean, the surprise obviously was there for my aunt, but no embarrassment whatsoever. It was there's nobody here. There was no surprise. But it was the thought that counts, and we did have a really good time. It was really nice. And so that was my surprise for my aunt. And now Larson is going to tell you about Twitter.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Thank you very much, Larson. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Again, my email address. I would love to hear if you wanted to chime in on any of the discussion topics. Again, you can email me. My address is live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com, or again, as my dad would say, we are on the Twitter at The Scribble Show, at The Scribble Show on Twitter. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Again, thanks for subscribing if you have not. You better. Thanks. Kisses. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,